Would you like for me to do this all over again?
Just talk about the zone.
The T-zone?
The gap.
T-zone and gap time. Okay. So the way the release works is we talked about singulation. Singulation waits, upstream waits for downstream to become clear before releasing. Then we have train. So here you can see train. Train means, if, for example, we have 10 loads accumulated. We release accumulation. All 10 zones are going to run at the same time. If all 10 zones have a load and they all pull, for example, 3 amps on a 20 amp circuit, you're going to shut down your power supply, and that's no good. So what we can do is we can select gap train. And with Easyroll Plus, it's train with a time, gap time. And now what happens is we have 10 loads accumulated, and we turn off accumulation. The first zone starts to release, and the timer starts. 1 second later, the second load starts to release, and the timer starts again. 1 second later, load 3 releases, and so on. And this will happen until all loads are moving. And what this does is give you train performance without every load pulling heavy on the power supply at the same time. So you create a delayed release.
Okay.
Next is T-zone accept time. And there, I like to go back to the documentation. And this is what we mean by a T-zone, perpendicular conveyor. Now, normally when this zone releases, this zone would turn on to accept. That would cause the box to spin. It could get jammed in here, or if this side had a barcode and up here's a scanner, if the box rotates, the barcode is not presented to the scanner and we have a no read. The scanner's got to be 99.9% accurate. So what we do, according to this example, is add a T-zone accept time. Now what happens when this zone releases, this conveyor does not start. The load releases, comes over, it blocks the sensor. Now that the sensor is blocked, this timer starts. The load comes over, stops, and then when the timer expires, then the load releases. And now it presents the barcode to the scanner and goes to the correct location. So T-zone accept time is a way to pass loads between perpendicular conveyor and not have a load spinning in here causing a jam. This will work between 2 separate modules as long as they have a connection in Easyroll. And will also work between the upstream and downstream zone of a single module. We have here an Easyroll. It's kind of hard to see sometimes here. We have the pop-ups. We call these tooltips. When you hover over a selection, it gives you information about what does the setting do. Kind of helps you to not have to go into the documentation. In this version of Easyroll, those cannot be turned off. But in Easyroll Plus, see how we're still hovering and we get a pop-up tip? If we go to this little cog up here, we can hide the tooltips. Yes. And now hovering over something, the tooltip no longer pops up.
Okay.
Once you get used to the software, you'll probably end up turning them off because they can, as you can see over here, become a little annoying every time you make a selection or something. Tooltips keep popping up. If we have a jam, this is the button that will clear a jam. And there's also a button in or a bit in a PLC can set. This clear jam button is on the main screen. And when the jam occurs, then the button pops up that you can press it. And again, it's also a bit in this for a PLC. The jam counter, this will go up to 65,535 and flip back over to 0. And it will also auto reset on a power cycle.
Can you clear it in the PLC?
Well, if you hit clear, it'll just clear the jam, but the counter will not clear. The counter will only clear on a power cycle or if it flips over.
And it increments up as an unsigned single integer, a byte.
Yes, yeah, it's an unsigned integer, so it will go all the way up to 65,535.
Okay.
Any place you see a set button in old Easyroll, if you change a value, notice how it's yellow. You must press set to make it take full effect. In the new Easyroll, you can just change it and press down here. You can change the value and press enter. So it doesn't have the set buttons anymore.
Okay.
This set all. The set alls work a little different. Set all would set all of just these zone settings for this range. All upstream zones from node 1 to 2 would be set with these settings. That's what set all does. So it's a way of tuning in one card and then applying the same settings to a whole range of cards.
Oh, nice.
With Easyroll Plus, it's a little different. If I say set all, I get a big pop-up. I can select configurations, motors, zones, and then over here, the range of cards to apply it to. So I can even select I'm going to also apply all the left motor settings and all the right motor settings. So these set alls will give you access to everything. And you can set an entire network all at one time. We have our zone settings. The sensor jam auto clear. And here's a sensor jam reset delay. This is how we can disable these. And we've already discussed what a sensor jam is. When a checkbox, as soon as you select the checkbox, that's instantly saved. As soon as you uncheck it, it is instantly saved. Disable arrival timeout and the reset delay. Disable manual operations. What this does is, and we'll learn more about how this actually works tomorrow, but basically the cards, because they talk to each other and the zones talk to each other, they know if a load is present. So if there's a zone, let's say there's a load in zone 2 and you remove it with your hands. Zone 3 knew a load was there. Then it knew the load was gone. So zone 3 by default would turn on, anticipating the load coming to zone 3. Unfortunately, I removed it, or you removed it. There was no load, but zone 3 still turned on. If we go to zone 3 and select disable manual operations, and now we go to zone 2 and we remove a load, zone 3 will not turn on to accept.
Okay.
Well, then, if we just turn off its ability to turn on to accept, what happens when zone 2 actually releases the load to zone 3? Well, because they talk to each other, zone 2 will tell zone 3, I'm discharging a load and here it comes. That's when zone 3 would turn on to accept.
Oh, okay.
And we'll get more in depth about that tomorrow. And then lastly, we have this dynamic release termination and dynamic release control. You select one module to be a control module, go down your conveyor, and then pick a module to be a termination module. You've just created a range of zones. Here's what happens. On the control card, energizing pin 3, you can almost see it there in that pop-up. We'll serve a little bit more. There we go. If you energize pin 3, what happens is singulation release becomes train release. And then when you turn off pin 3, train goes back to singulation. I have seen hundreds, if not thousands of backups. So here's customers. Here's all these customers. And this isn't because we've talked. It's because we've exchanged files, mainly backups and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not one of these customers have I ever seen a backup where they're using dynamic release control. Look at all these. Nope. So this is kind of a feature that was a good idea, but nobody uses it. I've asked for that to be removed, but it's fallen on deaf ears, unfortunately. And of course, there's a set all button that would set these settings for the upstream zone for this range. Well, that's now part of this big set all. Main settings, touch and go, additional settings. So all of that stuff is right here and readily available. The arrival and departure counters. That's on the main, that would be on this screen here. I believe no zones, I'm sorry. Arrival and departure counters. Error counter. So that's all right here on the zones tab. Error counter, arrival departure counters. That's what these are. Turn this on. This is force accumulation. Same thing as, see right here. Now the accumulate button's on. If I turn accumulation off, notice how old Easyroll doesn't update as quickly as new Easyroll. If I go back just to make the refresh, now it shows that it's off. But watch this side. If I turn it on, look how quickly the new software detects it. If I turn it off, the older software isn't as quick and responsive. Motor settings. Again, this is all on the main screen. The new Easyroll, it's under motors, but it's all the exact same information. Motor type, Eco, Boost, and Boost 8. These older ones, notice how these all say Synergy. This is the current motor, the Synergy motor. The pulse roller, this was our original motor. And notice how each one is slightly more powerful. Well, we get this ability now with just one motor. So we can select Eco, Boost, or Boost 8, all with one motor. For this type of performance with the older motor, you had to select one of the 4 motors. So that's one of the better advancements. The reason these are still here is for older systems. And you can see here in the new software, they're not even a selection. So this is an excellent example of showing older software for the older selections, older firmwares. The new software isn't even considering the older stuff anymore. Break method. Normal, free, servo 1, and servo 2. This is usually here I ask for volunteers. Next time you're able to connect up to a card with some motors, play with this setting. Feel it with your hand. Understand how it works. You're not going to break a motor. Because what I would ask you to do is I would say, okay, I have free break. Grab the motor and rotate it with your hand. And you would see how easy it is to rotate the motor. I would say normal. Okay, grab the motor and rotate the motor. And you're going to say, oh, yeah, I can feel some resistance. And then I'm going to select servo 1. Okay, grab the motor and rotate it. You're going to grab it and you go, ooh, there's some fight in there. And I'm going to say rotate it at least 90 degrees. And you're going to force it 90 degrees. And then I'm going to say let go. And when you let go, that motor will rotate back to where you originally started rotating. Servo 2 is even stronger. Normal will shunt one motor winding to ground. Servo 1 will shunt two motor windings to ground. And servo 2 shunts all three motor windings to ground. An even stronger, forceful, resistive electronic brake. But the best part is about the servo braking is that when you tell the zone to stop, the load will block the eye. Any induct time will be applied. The decel will be applied, and then the brake. So induct, decel, brake. This is my stop point. Using servo braking and any external resistance rotating that motor is going to fight like hell to get back to the stop point. As soon as that resistance leaves, boom, that motor will go right back to the stop position. That's very good for positioning. Closed loop. Closed loop is on by default. We suggest using closed loop. Closed loop gives you the best performance and feedback from the motor. What closed loop does is it actually looks at the feedback from the Hall effect sensors. Now, my example I like to do is, let's say we're in open loop. And here comes a 5-pound load. And let's just say our motor's 100% speed equals 100 feet a minute. Makes it easy. Here comes a 5-pound box. Boom. It's going to fly at 100 feet a minute. Now you put on a 60-pound box. Well, it's going to be struggling. Because what happens is, let's say this is the modulation for 100% speed. That's all the card cares about in open loop. Here's the frequency. Well, because it's a 60-pound load, it's going to slow down. And it's going to greatly affect your throughput. You're going to have a bad day. But we select closed loop. Now, the module is looking at the feedback from the motor. So we put a 5-pound box on, put it on a conveyor. There's 100% modulation, and here's the feedback. They're equal, no problem. Now we put the 60-pound box on the conveyor. Well, here's the modulation for 100% speed, but this is all the feedback we're getting. We're not getting this. The card detects that. It'll induce current. It'll speed that motor up. It'll help to maintain speed and performance, thus preserving your throughput. Set all, again, we'll set all for the range at the top. speed is a percentage. We try to suggest do not use speeds lower than 60%. The motors work better in the upper speed range. It's the better ability to apply the torque at the higher speeds.
Mhm.
Motor direction, and of course, accel and decel. Right now it says pulses because we're looking at feedback, closed loop. If we say open loop, now it's time-based because we don't know positioning anymore. It's all time-based. The current draw of a motor. So I'm going to slow this down a little bit because it's kind of fast, and press enter and press run. And here you can see the feedback from the motor as far as current draw, operating time, motor temperature, module temperature. In new Easyroll, not only do you get the same information, you also get some speed feedback information. And also, it's kind of hard to see. Let's see here.
So 100% is 100 feet per minute.
Well, that was just the example. Your actual speed will depend on the gearbox in your motor.
Okay.
100% speed could go all the way up to almost 1,000 feet a minute. So it all depends on your gearbox. But then again, the faster you go, the less torque you're going to have. So you can't move, 100-pound load at 1,000 feet a minute, but you can for sure move it at 100 feet a minute. Something I wanted to kind of see difference between the old and new software. If you could look at both current draws at the same time, like if we're looking here, 162, 158, the refresh is about every half second to 1 second.
Mm.
New software, look at this refresh rate. It's pretty fast.
So you recommend updating the modules to the latest firmware so you can use Easyroll Plus?
And yeah. Now, and you've got one of those tricky cases where you have some modules with some older firmware, and if they're in a PLC, changing the firmware could have bad side effects. It may require, okay, I want to update. Let me turn this off here. I want to update my system. My first suggestion would be look at your PLC code. Okay, I know if I upgrade these cards on the network, that in my program, I'm going to have to update the files in the program and kind of redo a little bit of the program. So that's, kind of a sacrifice or a step you're going to have to do to fully update your system if it is, with the older cards or the older firmware, and these cards are in your PLC. If they are not in your PLC, it's a very simple upgrade to firmware and you're done. It's just the PLC side that always concerns us. Sensor connector information, sensor error or the gain error being on. So I'm going to disconnect the sensor. And now you can see we have a sensor error because I disconnected a sensor. On main Easyroll or new Easyroll Plus, it's telling us, hey, the sensor's disconnected. This type of information is available in old Easyroll, but you have to click on this icon. And we call this the diagnostic window. And here it's telling us our sensor's unplugged. So all the same information is available. It's just in different locations now. See, here's a jam. We can clear it. And the reason it jammed was from me plugging and unplugging that sensor. Here you can see your photo-eye state. Here it's right on the main tab. Zone state. The zone's empty. The zone is empty. Tracking data. Here's the tracking data. So we have all the same information. It's just on different tabs now. There's no more hidden tab. Direction of flow. Direction of flow. Voltage drop indicator. Voltage drop indicator and module voltage. So like all this information is now right here on the main screen instead of on having to get a diagnostic view.
Okay.
These are all the motor error indicators. Motor not connected, meaning during auto configure, I detected a motor. Now, for some reason, it's no longer connected. Set the fault. Voltage drop below 18 volts. And also an over voltage, over 30 volt indicator. We discussed earlier about the over 30. It's over voltage. We stop running motors and start to dissipate the voltage to ground to get rid of it. But under 18, so let's say we're at 24 volts, nominal voltage, product's going to work great. But for some reason, the voltage is dropping. It can drop down to 18 volts and the modules will continue to run. It drops to 17.9. That's when this LED comes on. The voltage is below 18 volts. And this counter will increment each time it drops below 18 volts. If a module voltage drops below 18 volts, it'll stop running the motors. Now the voltage comes back. We're at 18. We're at 19. We're at 20. When the module experiences an under 18 volt condition, it will not start running the motors again until the voltage reaches 21 volts. Why? Because it was a voltage drop condition. If we start running at 18 or 19, odds are we're going to have another voltage drop condition. That's rough on the motors. You'll hear them chatter, starting, stopping. It's just rough on the motor. And what this is telling us is we have too many motors on our leg of power for that. So our 20 amp circuit, we have 16 motors instead of 12. And 8 of them are trying to start at one time, dropping voltage and causing issues. So this voltage drop indicator is a good troubleshooting tool to let us know, how robust is our power distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Max torque is the same as overcurrent. Overload, stalled, the motor sensor error, which is the Hall effect sensor errors, and an overheat error. We'll discuss all these a little bit more in detail tomorrow because these are all bits the PLC can monitor if it wants to.
Okay.
As these increment, so will this counter. So here's the exact, so in the newer software, here's all the exact same information. And here we have motor and module temperature. Here we have, the temperature for the motor, this is the actual motor temperature. If we're on the motor screen, here's the module temperature, operating time. The right side, as far as motor settings, zone settings, are they're exact same for the right and the left.
Yeah.
Advanced dialogue, look ahead and timing. That is part of the zones now. look ahead, and your timing. Look ahead. When enabled, I'm going to close it on this screen so we can look at both screens together. When enabled, if a zone knows it has to accumulate, we enter a second speed, meaning instead of coming in at let's make it 100% speed, make it easy. So instead of coming in fast at 100% speed and stopping within 50 pulses, we could say use look ahead. And now when the zone has to stop and accumulate, the zone's only going to run at 70% of this set speed, which would be 70%. So the load's going to come in slower, more controlled, a nice slow stop, which comes in good if you're transporting delicates or glass, things like that. Fast release time. This is one of those features that I've not seen used yet, but the way this works is you would enter a time. This time would be in milliseconds. And so you would enter, for example, 0.1, 100 milliseconds. And what this now means is when this zone turns on to accept and has to accumulate, instead of immediately switching to second speed, it'll continue at full speed for 100 milliseconds. And then if it still has to accumulate, then switch to the slow speed and stop. I don't know of anyone actually using this feature. Your jam timers and your auto clear timers. So the jam time is when a load releases. How long do you wait for confirmation? Or if the zone sensor's blocked and you're running to discharge, how long do you wait to set the sensor jam? Once the jam is set, auto clear time. How long do you wait to automatically clear that jam? Run after an induct. This could be time-based or distance-based. Most people just use time. And you have run after. When a zone turns on and discharges a load after the sensor clears, how long do I continue to run after the sensor clears? By default, 5 seconds. If no load arrives, turn off. Induct forward and reverse. You have reverse because you can tell the conveyor to go in the reverse direction. And what these are used for is normally your zone sensor is between the second and third roller from the end. You block it, you decel, and your load's approximately one roller from the very end. Well, what happens if your sensor is more towards the middle of the zone? Well, you would add induct time. So you would block the sensor, continue at full speed for the induct time, then apply decel, then apply brake to allow the load to enter farther into the zone before applying decel and brake. So it's to help with positioning. Okay, I understand. I'm perfectly fine. That's the excellence of virtual training. We can stop, we can cancel, we can pick up right where we leave off. Touch and go is a workstation feature. You have workstations along your conveyor. Operator has to put a box on the conveyor. If they're lucky, it's in front of a photo eye, and then the conveyor takes it along down. What happens if they put the load between photo eyes? Well, you have to wait for something to come from upstream to get it moving. If you enable touch and go, what the operator would do is set the load on the conveyor. Push down a little bit so it has some force on the motor and push forward. When that motor rotates, and remember we saw if you externally rotate the motor, you'll see the LED on the motor turn green.
Correct.
That's the feedback. When the card sees that with this feature enabled, that tells the card, wake up. And it'll run that motor, pull the load to the sensor, and then on down the conveyor. So this is, this is a nice little workstation feature. And lastly, here we have enable reversing conveyor. And of course, that is, all this is on this look ahead and timing tab. So your conveyor, you could say by turning, there's a little procedure, but you can have your forward moving conveyor switch to moving in the reverse direction.
Mm.
Very few people do this. The intention for this was for very small companies, the mom and pops, if you will. They can't afford a lot of conveyor. So in the morning, they would unload a truck. Well, if they wanted to load the truck, they'd either need another piece of conveyor, turn their conveyor around, or we gave them this feature, enable reversing. And now they could tell their conveyor to go reverse. So their one conveyor now goes both directions.
Nice.
Let's see, 148. Let's see, connections. Logical connections. So on this connections tab, you have connections and the ability for PLC mode. On new and Easyroll Plus, nothing but connections. And you can either here add by node number, which here would be, you could say add -1 or add +1 on this side, add +1, or this says IP address, you can manually enter an IP address. That's the same as here selecting add and manually add an IP address. So the same functionality, just slightly different tabs. All of this PLC information is on the configuration tab here. So this is where we can tell the module you're no longer in ZPA mode using your internal logic. You're now in PLC mode, waiting for a PLC to control you. So you would do it. So this software, you do it here. This software, you just press the button. And I want you to see two things. On this software, I'm going to press apply. Are you sure? This operation cannot be undone on this module without an auto configure again or restoring from a backup you've made. Or this was not. So this is telling you if you do this, it's permanent unless you have a backup or are willing to auto configure. So if you make a mistake, you better have a backup ready. And I know I haven't talked about that, but we definitely will.
Okay.
But with this software, if we say activate, again, this cannot be undone without auto configuration, restore from a backup, or revert to ZPA function. So this is a new feature. And what this does is this software said you have to have a valid backup. What this software does is when you say yes for PLC mode, it makes a backup automatically. It does it first. So you don't have to worry about making that backup if you make a mistake. So if we say yes, no, do not clear connections, let the two cards talk to each other. So now the CPU is resetting. And now our module so here's the module wrong is now in PLC mode. So this module is now in PLC mode. What this software does that this software does not is in C drive, program files 86, industrial software. That's who makes our software. Easyroll Plus. Here's all the program files, stuff it uses. But here's folders. Oh, revert ZPA backups. So when you use special features, it automatically creates these special folders. And if we look in revert today, here's a backup. Here's the date. The name of the backup is the module serial number.
Mm-hmm.
And now I could pull the software back up and say revert. Yes. And it'll retrieve that backup file from this folder. And now this card will go back to ZPA mode.
Okay.
Notice that it put the backup file on my PC, not on the card. So if somebody else goes and connects to this card and they try to say revert, they're going to get an error pop up that says this backup is not on your PC.
Mm-hmm.
So you could share it with them, give it to them, and then they could use it, put it in the folder.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do these things, these backups for like these special features are stored locally on your PC.
Mm. How do you do a manual backup? Say I wanted to back up in Easyroll.
So that's what I always suggest is when you first connect to a network, whether it's to view or to do some upgrades. Number one, advanced dialogue, network services, discover. And everything that's found, whether you may only want to look at this card, but it discovers 400.
Mm-hmm.
Select all 400. Backup.
How do I know? Oh, okay. It stores it as a.
So if we select backup, it then says, okay, here's the file. Where do you want to store? So we'll throw this on the desktop, and then it's the extensions dot backup, but we could call it Taylor number 1. Save. So you can save it as any name you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we have this backup, we can restore modules. So let's say this, they go bad. We got to replace them. Auto replace don't work.
Mm-hmm.
We get a brand new module. Manually assign it the correct IP address.
Mm-hmm.
And then just select the module, restore by IP, select your backup. Are you sure? Yes.
Store by IP.
Yes. Now there's 2 different ones. Let this one complete and I'll show you the other one. And then we'll call it a day.
Okay.
We have restore by IP, and here we have restore. Here's the difference. Restore by IP will look into your backup file, and if it finds the IP address of the module you selected, it will then restore all of the settings to that IP address.
For that particular module on it.
Based upon the IP address, yes.
Okay.
Then we have restore. Restore works a little bit differently. I'm going to click this module, and I always do this because it looks good. It's an easy way to show this. Let's say you have a maintenance guy, and he's mad at the world today, and he doesn't want to work. Set. And now he just changed the IP address of that module, and he has the whole facility shut down.
Mm-hmm.
How do you fix that? You select the module and you select restore, not by IP because obviously the IP address doesn't match.
Mm-hmm.
You select restore. Select your backup, open. Oh, are you sure? We got to change some configuration and IP address information. Yes. Watch that IP address. Did you see it change over here really quickly?
Yeah, I seen
Over
something
here.
change. Yeah.
So it actually completed, but because this software
So
is a
there's
little
a major upgrade with the software based on firmware for sure.
yeah,
Lots of improvements.
well, massive improvement.
Yeah.
But as you can see, now we have the correct IP address and settings. The way it works, still doing this reset here. Restore as by IP, of course, IP address. Regular restore is based upon the MAC address.
Okay. Gotcha.
So with that said, if you have to replace a module on your conveyor, things happen, be sure to make a new backup because that new module will have a new MAC address.
That's correct. So you have to do
You would just do another select all. Let's see, this is our new module. Select all,
backup.
make a new backup. And we could call this one Taylor 2. Enter. So Taylor, right there at 2:00,
Okay.
tomorrow, we can go ahead talking about the rest of the tabs.
Okay.
Or if you feel comfortable, we could jump right into PLC stuff. If tomorrow we finish Easyroll and only do partial PLC stuff, we can schedule another day.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to run through the rest of these tabs, like I guess first thing.
Okay.
Then we'll go directly into PLC. It should. I would assume that it would go pretty fast. Understanding Allen Bradley and
It does. It actually discussing the documentation and all the little bits and registers takes the longest. Showing examples and making programs, quick.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So then, Taylor, we'll see you.
Recordings to the calendar event.
So I'm gonna go ahead and stop that recording.
Okay.